The Still Point Cantina lived up to its name only in irony. Every surface vibrated with sound. Holographic advertisements screamed discounts on sonic trinkets. Tables thrummed with embedded rhythm generators. And the patrons themselves competed to be heard above the deliberate cacophony. The noise was security in this corner of the galaxy. Silence was suspicious. And so, when Elias Vale entered, the discordance faltered. He moved like a shadow cutting through light, his hooded figure somehow absorbing the ambient noise around him. Patrons, who moments before had been shouting over drinks, found themselves lowering their voices as he passed. A trio of Jaxian merchants stopped mid-haggle, their elaborate sonic negotiation instruments dangling forgotten from their appendages. Elias slid into a corner booth where the shadows were thickest. He kept his hood low, his human features barely visible except for the stubble on his jaw. He ordered nothing, said nothing, just sat, still as the vacuum between stars. At the bar, Captain Zara Cade watched him with calculating eyes. Her fingers tapped an irritated rhythm against her glass, the only part of her that betrayed impatience. The rest of her body remained professionally still, a bounty hunter's stillness, the coiled tension of a predator. "Is that him?" Her neural implant pinged. The message came from her unnamed client, whose substantial deposit already glittered in her account. "Matches the description," she subvocalized. "Human male, 5 cycles in exile. And the silence. It's unnatural. People are noticing. Confirmation required before payment." Zara sighed. Clients always wanted certainty in an uncertain universe. "I'll get closer." She lifted her drink and began a casual drift toward Elias's booth, when the doors to the Still Point burst open with a discordant blast of amplified sound. 4 chorus enforcers stormed in, their uniform exoskeletons gleaming with embedded sound modulators. The lead enforcer's voice boomed through the cantina, enhanced to painful levels. "Attention! This establishment has been cited for 3 violations of Auditory Ordinance 459B. We have detected silent loitering and subharmonic communication." The patrons erupted in protests and excuses, a wave of sound that seemed to break around Elias's booth, like water around a stone. The enforcers moved through the crowd, sonic prods extended. They collected fines, scanned IDs, and corralled the most vocal protesters into a corner where they administered standard auditory compliance tests. But their movements weren't random. They were steadily closing in on Elias. Zara noted the pattern with professional interest. Someone had tipped them off. Perhaps her client wasn't the only one hunting the silent man. The lead enforcer approached Elias's booth, sonic prod crackling. "Citizen, vocalize your identification and purpose immediately." Elias remained motionless. "Citizen, this is your final warning. Produce sound or face detainment under chorus directive." The enforcer raised his prod, its tip glowing with contained sonic energy. Elias looked up, his face still shadowed by his hood. He didn't speak, didn't move. Something in his stillness made the enforcer hesitate. A split second of uncertainty that would later be analyzed and reanalyzed in chorus debriefing chambers. "Detain the silent one," the enforcer finally commanded, backing away as his subordinates moved forward. What happened next would be reported differently by every witness. Yet all accounts would share one detail. Elias Vale never made a sound. The enforcer nearest to Elias triggered a Class 3 sonic grenade, a standard crowd control device designed to temporarily deafen and disorient. He tossed it directly at Elias's booth. Instead of the expected concussive blast, the grenade seemed to implode. A visible ripple emanated from where Elias sat, not of sound, but of its absence. The wave spread outward, nullifying the grenade's effect and washing over the nearby patrons. For 3 heartbeats, the Still Point lived up to its name. Then, chaos erupted. The enforcers' exoskeletons malfunctioned, their sound modulators feeding back in painful squeals. Patrons scrambled for exits. The lead enforcer screamed into his communicator for backup, but the device emitted only static. Through it all, Elias remained seated, unmoved, until Zara slid into the booth across from him. "Time to go," she said, her voice unnaturally clear in the pocket of silence surrounding him. Elias's eyes finally met hers, dark, wary, but not surprised. "I'm not who you think I am," Zara continued, glancing at the enforcers regrouping near the entrance. "I'm not with them, but they'll bring reinforcements with tech that can contain whatever you just did." Elias's expression didn't change. "Look, I don't care that you don't talk. I've met mutes before, but that," she gestured to the recovering patrons, "that wasn't normal. And it's about to make you very popular with people far worse than me." A muscle in Elias's jaw tightened. He glanced toward the back exit. "My ship's docked in Bay 37, Zara said. "I can get you off-world before the chorus locks down the port. After that, we discuss terms." For a moment, Zara thought he would refuse. Then, without a word, Elias stood. As they slipped out the back door, whispers were already spreading through the data streams. The silent human who had absorbed a sonic grenade. The quiet shield. The man whose silence was louder than screams. Zara's neural implant pinged again. "Target confirmed," her client messaged. "Bring him to the coordinates. Full payment awaits." She dismissed the message with a thought. First, they needed to escape. Then she would decide whether to honor her contract or renegotiate. Something told her that Elias Vale was worth more than her client was offering, particularly if the rumors about his silence were true. Behind them, the still point erupted in noise once more, but a different kind, the sound of a legend being born. The Maelstrom was an unimpressive vessel by most standards, a modified transport hauler with mismatched hull plates and outdated navigation systems. But as Zara guided Elias through its cargo bay, he noted the subtle military-grade enhancements hiding beneath the shabby exterior. Reinforced bulkheads, dampened engine signature, weapons ports disguised as maintenance hatches. A bounty hunter's ship, practical, deceptive, like its captain. "Keep up," Zara called over her shoulder as she led him through narrow corridors. "Once we break atmosphere, chorus patrols will be scanning for silent signatures." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Yes, they can scan for the absence of sound now," she explained, misinterpreting his expression. "After what happened on Vrexos 9, they developed tech specifically to track humans. Specifically, to track you." She palmed open the door to the bridge, where a lanky navigator with cybernetic eye implants swiveled in his chair. "Tommy, meet our passenger. He doesn't talk, so don't bother with introductions." She dropped into the captain's chair and began cycling through pre-launch sequences. "Get me clearance for immediate departure. Use the Gillian trading codes." "Already done, Captain," Tommy replied. "But we have a problem. Chorus enforcers are setting up checkpoints at all official exit vectors." Zara cursed. "Options?" "We could try the maintenance tunnels," Tommy suggested, his cybernetic eyes whirring as he calculated trajectories. "There's an old service conduit that runs beneath the commercial lanes. It'll be tight, but the Maelstrom can make it." "And it'll put us right in the path of the echoing nebula," Zara finished, frowning. "Not ideal." "What's ideal about any of this?" Tommy gestured toward Elias, who stood silently observing their exchange. "We're harboring the most wanted man in 3 sectors." Zara shot him a warning glance. "He's cargo, not contraband. There's a difference. Not to the chorus." A proximity alarm blared through the bridge. Zara's hands flew over the controls, bringing up external cameras. A squadron of chorus enforcement vessels had entered the docking bay, their distinctive sonic cannons already deploying. "Decision time," Tommy said. "Maintenance tunnels or surrender?" Zara looked at Elias, who had moved to the view screen. He studied the chorus vessels, his expression unreadable. Then, he turned to Zara and nodded once, decisively, toward the planet's surface. "The tunnels it is," she said, firing up the engines. "Tommy, give me minimal thrust. We'll drift until we're clear of the primary sensors, then punch it through the service conduit." The Maelstrom lifted on whisper-quiet thrusters, its signature masked by the ambient noise of the bustling spaceport. They descended toward the planet's surface, rather than ascending, a counterintuitive move that momentarily confused the chorus scanners. The service conduit was exactly as Tommy had described: tight, disused, and perfect for their purpose. The Maelstrom scraped through with meters to spare on either side, emerging on the far side of the spaceport, into open sky. "Full thrust!" Zara commanded, and the ship leapt forward with surprising speed, tearing through the atmosphere and into the darkness of space. Alarms sounded almost immediately. "Chorus interceptors, 6 of them, launching from orbital platform," Tommy reported. "Weapons hot!" "Set course for the echoing nebula," Zara ordered. "Maximum speed." Tommy's cybernetic eyes widened. "Captain, the nebula will knock out half our systems. We'll be flying blind." "Better blind than dead." She glanced at Elias, who had taken a seat in the navigator's chair, his posture calm despite the chaos. "Besides, I think our passenger might have some experience with dampened sound." The Maelstrom accelerated toward the distant purple haze of the nebula, the chorus interceptors gaining steadily behind them. The first sonic pulses began hitting their shields, causing the ship to shudder. "Shields at 82%, Tommy reported. "They're trying to disable, not destroy." "They want him alive," Zara muttered. "That's something, at least." The edge of the nebula loomed before them, its swirling gases lit by the radiation of distant stars. Unlike most nebulae, the echoing was infamous not for its visual properties, but for its unique effect on sound and sound-based technologies. Something in its gaseous composition absorbed and nullified sonic vibrations, creating a realm of near-perfect silence. Entering nebula in 3, 2, 1. The Maelstrom plunged into the purple haze, and immediately the difference was palpable. The constant background hum of the engines faded to a whisper. The alarms dimmed to barely audible tones. Even the sound of their breathing seemed muffled, as though the air itself was thicker. Behind them, the chorus interceptors hesitated at the nebula's edge. Their ships, like most in the galaxy, relied heavily on sonic technology for navigation, communication, and weapon systems. Entering the echoing nebula meant flying deaf and dumb. "They're breaking off pursuit," Tommy said, his voice sounding distant despite his proximity. "But they're establishing a perimeter. They'll wait us out." "Let them wait," Zara replied. "We have another problem." The ship's control panels were already dimming as the nebula's effects took hold. Navigation sensors flickered. Life support systems shifted to backup mode, their usual operational sounds fading to silence. "Tommy, how long can we operate in these conditions?" The navigator consulted his failing instruments. 48 hours maximum before critical systems start to fail. Less if we maintain full power. Then we maintain minimal power and find another way out." Zara turned to Elias. "This nebula stretches for thousands of kilometers, but it's not uniform. There are pockets where its effects are weaker. If we can find one, we might be able to restore enough systems to plot a course to the outer rim." Elias nodded again, his calm a stark contrast to the growing tension on the bridge. "Captain," Tommy called, his voice tight with alarm, "we're not alone in here." The main view screen showed only swirling purple gases, but the ship's weakened sensors had detected movement, faint signatures tracking alongside them at a distance. "Chorus scouts," Zara realized. "Specialized ships, psychoacoustic shielding." "How? Nothing should work in here," Tommy protested. "Nothing sonic," Zara corrected. "But the chorus has been developing alternative technologies since—" She glanced at Elias. "Since certain incidents made them reconsider their dependence on sound." The scout vessels were closing in, their shapes becoming visible through the nebula's haze, Sleek, predatory craft with unusual modifications. Instead of sonic cannons, they bristled with unfamiliar technology. Psychoacoustic weapons, Zara explained grimly. They don't rely on actual sound, but on the brain's perception of it. Even in silence, they can make you think you're hearing things. Commands, mostly. Instructions to surrender, to sleep, to die. Elias's expression hardened. He rose from his seat and moved closer to the view screen, studying the approaching vessels with newfound intensity. I wouldn't stand so close, Tommy warned. Those weapons can... The first psychoacoustic pulse hit the maelstrom with no physical impact. Instead, both Zara and Tommy clutched their heads as phantom sounds, screeching, wailing tones just beyond the threshold of pain, filled their minds. Systems failing, Tommy gasped, fighting to remain conscious as the false sounds overwhelmed his senses. Zara gripped the control console, her knuckles white. Countermeasures inactive. Can't. Through the haze of artificial noise, she saw Elias step forward, his back straight, his hands loose at his sides. He faced the view screen as another pulse hit the ship. This time, something different happened. The phantom sounds diminished around Zara, receding like a tide pulling back from shore. She blinked, disoriented by the sudden relief. Beside her, Tommy straightened in his chair, equally confused. On the view screen, the chorus scout vessels were veering off course, their movements erratic. One spun in a slow circle, its navigation clearly compromised. Another drifted aimlessly, power fluctuations visible across its hull. What's happening? Tommy whispered. Zara looked at Elias. He stood perfectly still, facing the scouts, his eyes closed in concentration. Around him, the air seemed to ripple with invisible energy, not sound, but its opposite. A field of silence extending outward from his body, engulfing the maelstrom and reaching toward the chorus vessels. For the first time, Zara understood what she was witnessing. The rumors were true, but incomplete. Elias Vale didn't merely refrain from making noise. He generated silence, projected it like a weapon or a shield. Their psychoacoustic systems, she realized. They rely on manipulating the brain's auditory centers. But if there's nothing to manipulate... The chorus scouts retreated, their weapons useless against Elias's expanding field of silence. As they disappeared into the nebula's purple depths, Elias opened his eyes. The rippling air around him stilled, but the pocket of perfect quiet remained, enveloping the ship. Within this bubble, the maelstrom systems began to recover. Lights brightened, sensors regained functionality. The engines hummed with renewed strength. Tommy stared at the instrument panels in disbelief. The nebula's effects, they're being neutralized, but how? Not neutralized, Zara corrected, watching Elias return calmly to his seat. Controlled. He's not fighting the silence, he's directing it. Elias met her gaze, and for the first time, she saw the faintest suggestion of a smile touch his lips. Tommy, she said, not breaking eye contact with Elias. Set course through the nebula. Our passenger just bought us safe passage. As the maelstrom continued its journey through the echoing nebula, the legend of the silent human grew stronger. The species that sits in silence. The man who wielded quiet like a blade. Elias Vale, the human who had turned the chorus's greatest weapon against them, the absence of sound itself. The Velenspire rose from the planet's surface, like an accusation against the sky. A twisted column of crystalline material that caught and amplified every sound within its reach. Even from orbit, the maelstrom's sensors detected the harmonic resonance emanating from the structure, a complex sonic pattern that served as both warning and welcome. Velen Outpost, Tommy announced. Last civilized stop before the outer territories. Zara studied the readouts with a frown. Heavily chorus-controlled. We'll need to be careful. 3 days had passed since their escape through the echoing nebula. 3 days of uneasy alliance between the bounty hunter and her silent passenger. Elias had proven useful beyond his strange ability to control silence. He had helped repair damage to the ship's hull, demonstrated an uncanny knack for navigation through treacherous asteroid fields, and twice spotted chorus patrols before the Maelstrom's sensors detected them. Yet he remained an enigma. Not once had he spoken or written a single word. His communication consisted entirely of nods, gestures, and expressions that somehow conveyed complex thoughts with minimal effort. "We need supplies," Zara continued, "and information. My client's coordinates point beyond Velen, into uncharted space." At the mention of her client, Elias's expression darkened. He had clearly understood their arrangement from the beginning, that he was cargo, to be delivered to an unknown buyer for an unknown purpose. "Don't look at me like that," Zara said. "You're still alive, aren't you? And not in Chorus custody. Most fugitives don't get that much." Elias turned away, gazing out at the Velen spire as it grew larger in the view screen. "Captain," Tommy interrupted, "we're being hailed from the surface. Specific frequency, non-standard." "Put it through!" The bridge speakers crackled with interference before a low, measured voice emerged. "Maelstrom vessel, transporting human exile. Urgent conference required. Docking Bay 94. Authorization, Thane Archives." The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun. "A trap?" Tommy suggested. "Maybe." Zara glanced at Elias, who had gone perfectly still at the mention of the Thane Archives. "But that authorization code isn't Chorus standard, and our passenger seems to recognize it." Elias met her gaze, then nodded once, decisively. "You want to meet this contact?" Zara asked. Another nod. "It could be a setup. The Chorus has informants everywhere." Elias's expression remained resolute. Zara sighed. "Fine. Tommy, set course for Docking Bay 94, but keep the engines hot. At the first sign of trouble, we're gone." The Maelstrom descended through Velen's atmosphere, following the coordinates embedded in the mysterious transmission. As they approached the surface, the spire dominated the landscape, its crystalline surface reflecting the light of the planet's twin suns. Around its base sprawled a chaotic settlement, a patchwork of structures built to capture and channel sound upward into the tower. Docking Bay 94 proved to be on the settlement's outskirts, away from the main Chorus surveillance network. As the Maelstrom settled onto the landing pad, Zara noted the absence of the usual auditory verification protocols. "Definitely not official," she muttered, checking her blaster. "Tommy, stay with the ship. If we're not back in 3 hours, leave without us." "What about your contract?" the navigator asked. "If I'm dead, the contract's void," Zara replied flatly. "And if I'm captured by the Chorus, death would be preferable." She and Elias disembarked, stepping into the harsh sunlight of Velen. The settlement's ambient noise washed over them, a disorienting mix of mechanical drones, amplified conversations, and the ever-present harmonic resonance from the spire. Elias winced, his discomfort evident. In response, a subtle field of silence extended around him, muting the worst of the cacophony. "Useful trick," Zara commented as they walked. "Must make sleeping easier." Elias's lips twitched in what might have been amusement. They wound through narrow alleys, following coordinates displayed on Zara's wrist computer. The buildings around them grew older and more decrepit as they moved away from the spire, until they reached a structure that stood apart from its neighbors. A dome of ancient stone, its surface covered in faded inscriptions. "The meeting point," Zara said, drawing her blaster. "Ready?" Elias nodded, his expression guarded but determined. The dome's entrance stood open, revealing a dimly lit interior. They stepped inside, and immediately the noise of the settlement disappeared, not due to Elias's ability, but to some property of the structure itself. The dome's inner surface was lined with a material that absorbed sound completely. At the center stood a figure in robes the color of faded parchment. As they approached, the figure turned, revealing the face of an elderly human woman. Her eyes, sharp and clear, fixed immediately on Elias. "The Silent One," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, yet perfectly audible in the dome's acoustic perfection. "You've come at last." Zara kept her blaster raised. "Who are you?" "I am Dr. Miru Thane, keeper of the Archives of Silence." The woman's gaze never left Elias. "And you, Elias Vale, are the fulfillment of a very old prophecy." Elias showed no surprise at being recognized, but his posture tensed slightly. "Prophecy?" Zara scoffed. "We didn't come here for religious nonsense." "Not religion, Captain Cade. History." Dr. Thane finally looked at Zara. "Yes, I know who you are. A bounty hunter with an unusual moral code, currently contracted to deliver this man to coordinates beyond the Outer Rim." "How do you—" "The same way I know that your client is not who they claim to be." Dr. Thane turned back to Elias. "They do not seek to protect you, as they've led Captain Cade to believe. They seek to exploit your ability, to weaponize it against the very sanctuary you hope to find." Elias's expression remained neutral, but Zara noted the slight narrowing of his eyes. "What sanctuary?" she demanded. "What is she talking about?" Dr. Thane smiled sadly. "The one place in the galaxy where silence is not feared, but revered. The origin world of the Archives. The planet your navigational coordinates will lead you to, though not for the reason you think." She gestured, and a holographic display activated in the center of the dome. It showed a star system on the very edge of known space, with a single, habitable planet orbiting a dying sun. "Sanctuary," Dr. Thane said. "The world Elias has sought since his exile began. The world your client wishes to find and destroy before he reaches it." Zara looked between the hologram and Elias, whose face had softened at the sight of the planet. "That's where you've been trying to go? All this time?" He nodded, a depth of longing in his expression that surprised her. "The chorus of Velen fears sanctuary above all else," Dr. Thane continued, "because it holds the truth they have spent millennia suppressing, that silence is not death, but power. The archives preserved there contain the history of sound manipulation that the chorus has corrupted for their own purposes." "And what does this have to do with him?" Zara gestured toward Elias. "Why is the chorus so determined to capture one silent human?" "Because he is not merely silent by choice," Dr. Thane replied. "He is a resonant, the first human to manifest the ability in 10 generations. His silence can disrupt the chorus's control. It can awaken similar abilities in others. It can, if brought to sanctuary, restore the balance that was lost when the chorus seized power." Elias stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the holographic planet. For a moment, Zara thought he might finally speak. Instead, he reached out, his hand passing through the image with gentle reverence. "I have studied the archives my entire life," Dr. Thane said softly. "When reports of a silent human who could absorb sound began to spread, I knew the time had come. The prophecy speaks of the quiet one who walks between stars, whose stillness breaks chains of noise. That is you, Elias Vale." Zara holstered her blaster with a sigh. "This is all very mystical, Dr. Thane, but it doesn't change the fact that I have a contract. I've been paid to deliver him to specific coordinates. Coordinates that will lead you not to sanctuary, but to a chorus trap," Dr. Thane countered. "Your client is Lieutenant Ral, Chief Enforcer of the Chorus's Silence Eradication Division. The payment in your account came from Chorus coffers, routed through shell corporations to hide its origin." Zara's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. I've vetted the client." "The Chorus controls most information networks. They can falsify any credentials." Dr. Thane's expression was sympathetic but firm. "They knew you would find Elias eventually. They merely hired you to do the work for them." A bitter taste filled Zara's mouth as pieces fell into place. The client's insistence on secrecy, the unusually high payment, the convenient appearance of chorus enforcers at the still point, just as she'd located Elias. "I've been played," she admitted, anger rising in her chest. "But that doesn't mean I believe your prophecy nonsense." "Belief is not required. Captain Cade, only action." Dr. Thane deactivated the hologram and drew a small data crystal from her robes. "These are the true coordinates of Sanctuary, along with navigation through the defensive measures that protect it." She held out the crystal, but instead of offering it to Elias, she extended it to Zara. "You must decide. Honor your contract with the Chorus, who deceived you, or help Elias reach Sanctuary, and perhaps change the course of galactic history." Zara didn't take the crystal immediately. "If I help him, the Chorus will mark me for death. My ship, my crew, will never work in civilized space again." "Perhaps," Dr. Thane acknowledged. "Or perhaps you will find a new purpose on Sanctuary. The archives have need of those who can move between worlds." A commotion outside interrupted them, shouts and the distinctive hum of Chorus sonic weapons. "They've found us," Dr. Thane said calmly. "My transmission was detected despite precautions." Zara cursed and drew her blaster again. "Is there another way out?" "Through the reliquary, quickly." Dr. Thane led them toward the back of the dome, where a narrow passage descended into darkness. As they hurried, the sounds of pursuit grew louder. The dome's entrance burst open, and Chorus enforcers poured in, their exoskeletons gleaming in the dim light. "Halt!" the lead enforcer commanded, his voice amplified to painful levels. "By order of Lieutenant Rail, surrender the silent human." Elias stopped at the entrance to the passage, turning to face the enforcers. Zara grabbed his arm. "This is no time for heroics. Move!" But Elias stood firm, his expression resolute. Around him, the air began to ripple with that now familiar energy, the visible manifestation of his silence extending outward. The lead enforcer raised his sonic cannon. "Final warning, surrender or—" His words cut off as Elias's field of silence reached him. The enforcer clutched at his throat, his amplifiers dead, his natural voice too weak to carry in the dome's perfect acoustics. The other enforcers fired their weapons, but the sonic pulses dissipated as they entered Elias's expanding silence. They tried to advance, but their exoskeletons, dependent on sonic calibration, began to malfunction, limbs locking in mid-stride. Zara watched in awe as Elias single-handedly neutralized a dozen Chorus enforcers without moving from his position. His face showed strain now, beads of sweat forming on his forehead as he maintained the field of silence. "The passage, now," Dr. Thane urged. "He cannot hold them forever." Together, they pulled Elias into the dark passage. As soon as they were clear, Dr. Thane sealed the entrance with an ancient mechanical lock that required no sound to operate. "This leads to a secondary docking bay," she explained, as they hurried through the tunnel. "My research vessel is there. We can use it to reach your ship." "And then Sanctuary?" Zara asked, supporting Elias, who had weakened considerably after his display of power. "That choice remains yours, Captain," Dr. Thane replied. "But decide quickly. The Chorus will not be fooled for long." They emerged into a small, hidden bay where a sleek scout craft waited. As they boarded, alarms began to sound throughout the settlement, the distinctive three-tone sequence that signaled a maximum priority hunt. "The Chorus has deployed Lieutenant Rael himself," Dr. Thane said grimly, as she initiated launch sequences. "He will not stop until Elias is captured." Zara helped Elias into a seat, noting the exhaustion evident in his face. "Why doesn't he speak?" she asked Dr. Thane. "Is it part of his power, or a choice?" "Both," the archivist replied. "For a resonant, speaking disrupts the perfect internal silence needed to project their ability outward. But for Elias, I suspect it began as necessity and became identity." The scout craft lifted off, skimming low over the settlement to avoid detection. In the distance, the Velen spire pulsed with intensified sonic energy, its crystalline surface vibrating visibly. "They're activating the spire's defense systems," Dr. Thane warned. "If we're caught in the harmonic net, all our systems will fail." "Then don't get caught," Zara replied. She turned to Elias, who had recovered enough to sit upright. "Can you do that silence field again? Extend it around the ship?" Elias considered for a moment, then nodded, though uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "You needn't strain yourself," Dr. Thane cautioned. We can't outrun them," Zara interrupted. "Not in this craft. And my ship is still in Docking Bay 94, surrounded by chorus patrols by now. We need an edge." Elias straightened and closed his eyes. The air around him began to ripple once more, the silence extending outward more slowly than before, but steadily engulfing the scout craft. Dr. Thane watched with academic fascination. "Remarkable. In the ancient texts, it's written that a true resonant could extend silence across vast distances, even to planetary scale. But no one has demonstrated such power in living memory." "Let's hope he doesn't have to," Zara muttered, checking the scanner. "Chorus interceptors, closing fast, and something bigger, a command vessel." The scout craft accelerated toward Docking Bay 94, where the Maelstrom waited. As they approached, they saw chorus enforcers surrounding the ship, sonic cannons trained on its hull. "Tommy," Zara called through the communicator. "Status?" "Locked down," came the navigator's tense reply. "They haven't boarded yet, but they've deployed sonic dampeners. I can't initialize engines." "We're coming in hot," Zara said. "Be ready to punch out the moment those dampeners fail."
"How will they—"
"Trust me." She looked at Elias, whose concentration was evident in the tight line of his jaw. His silence field now extended well beyond the scout craft, a bubble of perfect quiet cutting through Velen's cacophony. As they neared the Maelstrom, the effect became visible to the chorus enforcers. Their sonic dampeners flickered and died. Their communications failed. Their exoskeletons froze in place, leaving them immobile and vulnerable. "Now, Tommy!" Zara shouted into the communicator. "Full power!" The Maelstrom's engines roared to life, the sound immediately swallowed by Elias's expanding silence. The ship lifted from the docking bay just as the scout craft touched down beside it. "Transfer to my ship," Zara ordered. "Both of you. We won't get another chance." They abandoned the scout craft and raced up the Maelstrom's ramp. Elias, moving slower now, the strain of maintaining his silence field taking a visible toll. Once aboard, Zara sealed the hatch and sprinted for the bridge. "Get us out of here!" she commanded as she strapped into the captain's chair. The Maelstrom shot upward, protected by Elias's silence from the barrage of sonic weapons fired from below. As they broke atmosphere, Zara finally allowed herself a moment of relief. Until the scanner chimed. "Command vessel," Tommy reported. "Directly in our path. It's massive, Captain." On the view screen, a Chorus battleship materialized from the planet's shadow, a colossal structure shaped like a tuning fork, its prongs crackling with concentrated sonic energy. "Identification verified," an emotionless voice announced over their communication system. "Maelstrom vessel. This is Lieutenant Rail of the Chorus Enforcement Division. Your ship is confiscated. Your crew will be processed for auditory compliance. The silent human will surrender immediately." Zara glanced at Elias, who had collapsed into a seat on the bridge, his silence field faltering as exhaustion overcame him. Dr. Thane stood beside him, her expression grim. "Your archivist is also charged with heresy against the Harmony," Rahl continued. "Surrender now, or face sonic dissolution." The battleship's prongs began to glow brighter, energy building between them, a sonic weapon powerful enough to tear the Maelstrom apart, molecule by molecule. Zara's hand hovered over the hyperdrive controls. "If we jump now, we might escape the weapon's range." but we'll be jumping blind. We'll likely end up in the heart of a star, Tommy protested. Better than what the chorus has planned for us. Zara looked at Dr. Thane. The data crystal. Those coordinates for Sanctuary. Could we use them for the jump? The archivist nodded. They would guide us safely. Yes. But without proper navigation through the defensive measures. One problem at a time. Zara held out her hand. The crystal. Dr. Thane hesitated only briefly before placing the small crystal in Zara's palm. You've made your choice, then? Zara glanced at Elias, who watched her with those dark, inscrutable eyes. I don't like being manipulated, she said. Not by the chorus, not by prophecies, not by anyone. But I choose my own path now. She inserted the crystal into the navigation console. Coordinates appeared. A distant star system beyond the edge of charted space. Tommy, set course for these coordinates. Prepare for immediate jump. As the navigator programmed the hyperdrive, Lieutenant Raoul's voice came through again, colder than before. Final warning, Maelstrom. The silent human cannot escape. His power belongs to the chorus. Surrender. Or... Zara cut the communication. Jump now! The stars stretched around them as the Maelstrom leapt into hyperspace, narrowly avoiding the sonic weapon's discharge. Behind them, Lieutenant Raoul's battleship faded from view, but Zara had no illusions that they had escaped for good. The hunt had only begun, and somewhere ahead lay Sanctuary, a world of silence that might save them, or doom them all. The hyperspace journey to Sanctuary took 17 days. 17 days of tense quiet aboard the Maelstrom, broken only by the necessary communication between crew members. Elias spent most of this time in solitude, conserving his strength and preparing for whatever awaited them. Dr. Thane divided her hours between consulting ancient texts she had brought from Velen and instructing Zara on the defensive measures protecting their destination. Sanctuary is surrounded by a dispersed field of nanites, she explained on the 12th day, indicating the swirling barrier on the holographic display. They detect and absorb sound waves. Any ship broadcasting normal communications or running standard sonic-based systems will trigger the defensive protocols. Which are? Zara asked. Immediate disintegration, Dr. Thane replied matter-of-factly. The founders of Sanctuary were determined that the chorus would never find their world. Cheerful? Zara studied the hologram with a frown. So, how do we get through without being atomized? The data crystal contains a sonic key, a specific frequency that identifies us as friendlies. But it must be broadcast at precisely the right moment and strength. And if we get it wrong? Dr. Thane's smile was thin. Then our journey ends rather abruptly. On the 17th day, the Maelstrom dropped out of hyperspace at the coordinates specified in the crystal. Before them hung a small, unassuming planet, orbiting a red dwarf star. Its surface appeared mostly oceanic, with scattered archipelagos of land visible through wispy cloud cover. Sanctuary, Dr. Thane said, reverence in her voice. The cradle of silence. Zara was less impressed. I don't see any defensive barrier. It's not visible to standard sensors, the archivist explained. Initiate a sonic ping, and you'll detect it immediately. Tommy complied, sending out a standard navigational pulse. The response was immediate. Their screens lit up with a surrounding shell of minute particles, extending in all directions around the planet. The nanite field, Dr. Thane confirmed. Now we must broadcast the key precisely as we approach. Too soon. And it will dissipate before we reach the barrier. Too late. And... She made a small, exploding gesture with her hands. Comforting, Zara muttered. She turned to Elias, who had joined them on the bridge, looking stronger than he had since their escape from Velen. Any insights to share? Now would be the time. Elias studied the holographic display carefully, then pointed to a specific region of the barrier, a place where the nanite concentration appeared slightly less dense. Yes, Dr. Thane agreed. The entry point shifts based on Sanctuary's rotation. The archives indicate this is the correct approach vector for this time cycle. The Maelstrom moved forward cautiously. All non-essential systems powered down to minimize sonic emissions. As they neared the barrier, Dr. Thane inserted the data crystal into a specialized port on the communications console. "Broadcast the key on my mark," she instructed Tommy. 3, 2, 1, mark. A complex series of tones emanated from the Maelstrom. Not sound as conventionally understood, but a pattern of sonic vibrations at frequencies barely detectable by human ears. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the nanites before them began to part, creating a narrow corridor through the barrier. "Proceed," Dr. Thane said. "Maintain exact course. Any deviation will close the passage." The Maelstrom glided forward, the nanite barrier now visible through the view screen as a subtle distortion in space, like heat rising from desert sand. As they passed through, Zara held her breath, half expecting alarms to sound or weapons to fire. Instead, they emerged into clear space, the planet now much closer, its surface features distinct and inviting. "We've passed the outer barrier," Dr. Thane announced. "But the inner defenses remain. We must land at the designated coordinates, nowhere else." The ship descended through Sanctuary's atmosphere, following the crystal's guidance. Below them, the terrain resolved into a landscape of small islands, scattered across a vast turquoise ocean. On the largest island, a structure rose from the center, a building of white stone, its architecture unlike anything Zara had seen before. "The Archives of Silence," Dr. Thane said, her voice thick with emotion. "After a lifetime of study, I finally see them with my own eyes." They landed on a flat plain near the structure, powering down the Maelstrom completely once they touched the surface. As the engines died, an unusual quality to the silence became apparent, a stillness more complete than any they had experienced, even in the echoing nebula. "The air itself absorbs sound here," Dr. Thane explained, as they prepared to disembark. "A natural property of the planet, enhanced by generations of residents who lived and worked in the archives." Zara checked her blaster out of habit, though she doubted it would be needed. "What exactly are we looking for here? Some weapon against the chorus? A fleet of ships? A cure for the galaxy's noise addiction?" "Understanding," Dr. Thane replied simply. "The archives contain the truth about sound and silence, knowledge the chorus has suppressed for millennia. With it, Elias can fully realize his potential as a resonant." And then, the archivist said with a slight smile, "everything changes." They stepped out onto the surface of Sanctuary, the silence enveloping them like a physical presence. The air felt different, cleaner, somehow, as if purified by the absence of sound. The archives building loomed before them, its white stone gleaming in the red light of the dwarf star. As they approached, Zara noticed details in the architecture, carvings that seemed to flow and change as she looked at them, creating the impression of frozen sound waves. The entrance was a perfect arch, unmarked by door or barrier, inviting them into cool shadows beyond. Elias walked ahead of them now, his stride purposeful, his back straight. Whatever exhaustion had plagued him during their journey had vanished in the presence of Sanctuary's natural silence. Inside, the archives opened into a vast circular chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness above. The walls were lined with shelves containing thousands of objects, crystals similar to the one Dr. Thane had given them, ancient books bound in unfamiliar materials, devices whose purpose Zara couldn't begin to guess. But at the center of the chamber stood something impossible to miss. A massive obelisk of black stone, its surface inscribed with symbols from base to apex. It rose at least 20 meters high, tapering to a sharp point that seemed to pierce the darkness above. "The heart of silence," Dr. Thane whispered, her voice barely audible even in the perfect acoustics of the chamber. The first and greatest achievement of the original resonance. Elias approached the obelisk slowly, his expression one of wonder and recognition, as though greeting an old friend after a long separation. The inscriptions, Zara noted, studying the strange symbols. What do they say? They are not words as we understand them, Dr. Thane explained. Each symbol represents a different culture's concept of silence, their unique understanding of the absence of sound. Together, they form a complete lexicon of silence throughout the galaxy. Elias reached the base of the obelisk and placed his hand against its surface. Immediately, a change rippled through the chamber. Not a sound, but a deepening of the silence, as if it were becoming more substantial, more present. He is connecting with it, Dr. Thane said, awe in her voice. The obelisk recognizes him as a resonant. It will show him. A violent tremor shook the chamber, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. Zara stumbled, catching herself against a shelf. What was that? She demanded. Seismic activity? Dr. Thane's expression had changed to one of alarm. No, something has breached the outer barrier. Another tremor, stronger than the first. This time, it was accompanied by a sound, faint but unmistakable, the harmonic resonance of chorus ships.
Impossible, Dr. Thane breathed. They couldn't have followed us through the barrier. The nanites would have... Unless they found another way.
Zara interrupted. She activated her wrist computer, connecting to the Maelstrom's sensors. The display showed multiple ships entering Sanctuary's atmosphere, chorus vessels, led by a familiar tuning fork-shaped battleship. Lieutenant Raal, she confirmed grimly. He must have extracted the coordinates from Dr. Thane's research on Velen. Or... She stopped, a cold realization dawning. The crystal, the one you gave us, could it have been transmitting our position? Dr. Thane's face paled. The archives were compromised before I left. I thought I had purged any tracking elements. But if Raal had access to the original programming... Another tremor, closer now. The sound of chorus ships was growing louder, an obscenity in the perfect silence of Sanctuary. They're landing, Zara reported, checking her computer. Multiple strike teams. Heavy weapons. They're coming for the archives. She looked up at Elias, still connected to the obelisk. For him, Dr. Thane moved to a nearby shelf and retrieved an ancient device, a cylindrical object with intricate controls along its length. We must complete the connection before they arrive. Once Elias fully attunes to the heart of silence, he can extend his field across the entire planet. The chorus ships will be neutralized. How long will that take? Zara asked, drawing her blaster. I don't know. Minutes? Hours? The texts aren't specific. We don't have hours. Zara checked the entry points to the chamber. We need to buy time. Tomi, get back to the ship. Prepare for emergency departure. The navigator nodded and sprinted for the exit. Dr. Thane, stay with Elias. Help him complete whatever connection he needs to make. Zara positioned herself near the main entrance, blaster ready. I'll hold them off as long as I can. The archivist activated the device she had retrieved. It emitted a soft glow that pulsed in rhythm with the obelisk. This will accelerate the process, but Elias must find the pattern himself, the key that unlocks his full potential as a resonant. Outside, the sound of chorus troops grew louder, the distinctive hum of sonic weapons charging, the synchronized footfalls of exoskeleton-enhanced soldiers. Zara estimated they had minutes at most before the archives were breached. She glanced back at Elias, still motionless against the obelisk. His eyes were closed, his breathing slow and measured. Whatever journey he was on, he seemed oblivious to the danger approaching. Any time now would be good, she muttered. The first chorus soldiers appeared at the entrance, sleek, deadly figures in advanced exoskeletons, their features hidden behind sonic filtering helmets. They paused at the threshold, scanning the chamber with methodical precision. Zara fired her blaster, catching the lead soldier in the chest. He stumbled back but didn't fall, the exoskeleton absorbing most of the impact. The others raised their sonic cannons in response. "Take cover!" Zara shouted to Dr. Thane as she ducked behind a massive stone pedestal. The sonic blast tore through the chamber, shattering ancient artifacts and sending shockwaves through the air. The silence of Sanctuary absorbed much of the energy, but enough remained to make Zara's ears ring with pain. More soldiers poured through the entrance, spreading out to surround the obelisk. Behind them came a taller figure, his exoskeleton more elaborate than the others, its surface inscribed with symbols of the chorus. Lieutenant Ral had arrived. "Secure the chamber," he commanded, his voice amplified to painful levels. "Find the archivist. The silent human is mine." Zara fired again, dropping one soldier, then another. But there were too many, and her position was exposed. A sonic pulse caught her in the shoulder, sending her spinning to the floor, her blaster skittering away. Through blurred vision, she saw Dr. Thane standing defiantly before the obelisk, the ancient device clutched to her chest. "You cannot have him, Ral! You cannot have this knowledge!" The lieutenant approached, unmoved by her defiance. "Dr. Miru Thane, your research led us here. How fitting that you should witness the chorus reclaim what was always rightfully ours." "The silence was never yours," she spat. "You perverted it, weaponized it. The true resonance created harmony, not control." "A semantic distinction," Ral gestured, and two soldiers seized Dr. Thane, wrenching the device from her grasp. "The obelisk's power will serve the chorus, as all things must, and the silent human will be the instrument of that service." He turned his attention to Elias, who remained connected to the obelisk, seemingly unaware of the chaos around him. Ral studied him with cold curiosity. "Remarkable. Even now, he maintains his silence." The lieutenant moved closer, circling Elias like a predator. "Do you know how long the chorus has searched for a true human resonant? How many experiments we conducted, trying to replicate the ability artificially?" He reached out, not quite touching Elias but coming close. "Your kind is rare, Elias Vale, but not unique, not irreplaceable. Once we understand how your silence functions, we can breed more like you, a controlled population of resonance, serving the chorus." Zara struggled to her feet, fighting through the pain of her injured shoulder. "Leave him alone, Ral. You have no idea what you're dealing with." The lieutenant turned, noticing her for the first time. "Captain Cade, the bounty hunter who chose the wrong side." He sighed dramatically. "I offered you wealth, position within the chorus. Yet you threw it away for... what? A mute human? A deluded archivist? Some fairy tale about Sanctuary?" "For choice," Zara replied, edging closer to her fallen blaster. "Something the chorus can't comprehend." "Choice is chaos," Raal said dismissively. "The chorus brings order, structure, harmony." "You bring noise disguised as music," Dr. Thane called from where she was restrained. "You drown out the silence that allows true understanding." Ral ignored her, turning back to Elias. "Enough debate. It's time to end this strange odyssey." He removed a device from his exoskeleton, a neural probe that glowed with pulsing energy. "This will extract what we need to know. Your silence, your connection to the obelisk, everything." He stepped forward, the probe extended toward Elias's unprotected neck. And in that moment, everything changed. Elias opened his eyes. The chamber erupted in a soundless explosion of pure white light, emanating from the obelisk but flowing through Elias like a conduit. The light engulfed the entire space, freezing everyone in place. Raal with his probe extended, the soldiers with weapons raised, Zara in mid-lunge for her blaster. In this moment of perfect stillness, Elias turned from the obelisk, His expression was transformed, not merely calm now, but radiant with understanding. He looked at Raal, not with fear or anger, but with something like compassion. And then he did the one thing no one expected. He spoke. "Enough," he said, his voice soft yet perfectly clear. Just that single word, carrying the weight of absolute authority. The white light pulsed once, then twice. The neural probe in Raal's hand shattered. The sonic weapons carried by the soldiers crumbled to dust. Every piece of chorus technology in the chamber disintegrated in an instant. The exoskeletons followed, falling away from their wearers in fragments, leaving the soldiers suddenly vulnerable and human. Raal staggered back, his elaborate armor peeling away like dead skin, his amplifiers silent. "What have you done?" he gasped, his natural voice weak and reedy without enhancement. Elias stepped forward, the white light flowing around him like water. "I've silenced the noise," he said simply, as the obelisk was meant to do. Dr. Thane, freed from her captors, moved to Elias's side. "You've connected. You understand now." He nodded. The heart of silence isn't a weapon. It's a reset, a way to restore balance when sound and silence fall out of harmony. "Impossible," Raal protested, backing away. "The chorus is the natural order. We control sound. We define silence." "No," Elias said gently. "You never controlled either. You only thought you did." The white light continued to pulse, growing stronger with each wave. Outside, they could hear the chorus ships faltering, their engines sputtering into silence. "What's happening to them?" Zara asked, retrieving her blaster, but finding no need to use it. "The reset is spreading," Dr. Thane explained, wonder in her voice. "The obelisk is broadcasting silence across Sanctuary. Every piece of chorus technology is being neutralized." "Not just technology," Elias added. "Ideology. The belief that sound must dominate silence. The fear that silence equals death." Raal collapsed to his knees, his face contorted with rage and disbelief. "You'll doom the galaxy to chaos. Without the chorus, without our harmonic controls, civilization will crumble. Or it will find a new balance," Elias countered. "One where sound and silence coexist, neither dominating the other." The light reached its peak intensity, momentarily blinding everyone in the chamber. When it faded, the obelisk had changed, its surface now smooth and reflective, the ancient symbols absorbed into its core. Elias stepped back, his connection to the heart of silence complete. The transformation that had begun in him was evident. He stood taller, his movements more fluid, his presence somehow both more substantial and less obtrusive than before. "It's done," he said. "The reset has begun." Zara looked around at the defeated chorus soldiers, at Raal, broken and diminished without his technology. "What happens now? To them? To us?" "Now we rebuild," Dr. Thane said. "The archives will be restored. The knowledge of true harmony between sound and silence will spread once more." "And the chorus?" Elias considered Raal thoughtfully. "They'll adapt, or they'll fade. The choice is theirs." "You think it's that simple?" Raal spat. "The chorus spans thousands of worlds. This reset can't reach them all."
"It doesn't need to," Elias replied. "It only needs to reach enough. The rest will follow, in time."
Tomi's voice came through Zara's communicator, startling in its normalcy. "Captain, the chorus ships are dead in the air. Their crews are abandoning them. And there's something else, transmissions from across the sector, reports of chorus technology failing everywhere. The reset is propagating along their own communication networks." Dr. Thane realized. Brilliant. The obelisk is using the chorus's own connections against them. Outside, the sound of the chorus presence on Sanctuary had faded to nothing. In its place, a profound silence had fallen, not the oppressive quiet of fear, but the peaceful stillness of balance restored. Zara holstered her blaster, suddenly aware it was no longer needed. So what now? We've won, just like that? Elias smiled, a full, genuine expression that transformed his solemn features. Not won, begun. 1 month later, Zara stood on the shore of Sanctuary's primary island, watching the sunset paint the turquoise ocean in shades of copper and gold. Behind her, the archives of silence had been fully restored, its white stone gleaming in the fading light. New arrivals came daily, scholars, refugees from chorus worlds, the curious and the seeking. Captain Cade! She turned to find Elias approaching along the beach. Since the reset, he had spoken more often, though his words remained measured and precise, as if each one carried the weight of his former silence. Still not used to hearing your voice, she commented as he reached her. Especially with that title. I'm not a captain anymore. Old habits, he conceded with a slight smile. The Maelstrom's repairs are complete. Tommy says she'll fly better than ever. Zara nodded, looking out to where her ship rested on the plain near the archives. Good, it's time I moved on. You could stay, Elias said quietly. There's a place for you here. Dr. Thane has suggested establishing a transport network, connecting Sanctuary with other worlds where the reset has taken hold. We need pilots, people who know the spaceways, people who know how to avoid chorus patrols, Zara added. What's left of them, anyway. Reports from across the galaxy painted a fragmented picture. In some sectors, the chorus had collapsed entirely, their technology rendered useless by the reset. In others, they held on, adapting and evolving, perhaps even learning from their defeat. The work isn't finished, Elias acknowledged. It may never be. Balance isn't a destination, it's a journey. Very philosophical. Zara kicked at the sand with her boot. Look, Elias, I'm a bounty hunter. I chase people. I deliver them. I get paid. I'm not built for whatever this is. Revolutions. New societies. Philosophical balance. Aren't you? He challenged gently. You chose to help me reach Sanctuary when it would have been easier to collect your payment from Ral. You risked everything for something you didn't even believe in. I just don't like being lied to, she muttered. Perhaps. Or perhaps you're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you're meant to do. Elias gestured toward the archives, where new arrivals were being welcomed by Dr. Thane. These people need someone like you, someone practical, suspicious, skilled at survival. The reset may have begun, but the galaxy is still a dangerous place. Zara watched the newcomers, families with children, elderly scholars, former chorus citizens now free of their sonic dependence. They moved in the unique quiet of Sanctuary, their voices soft, their movements deliberate. And what about you? She asked. What does the galaxy's only human resident do now that he's reset the cosmic balance? Elias considered the question seriously. I learn, I teach. I try to understand what the obelisk showed me, the true nature of silence, the power of stillness. Sounds boring. He laughed, a sound Zara was still getting used to. Sometimes, but necessary. The last sliver of sun disappeared below the horizon, plunging the beach into twilight. Stars began to appear overhead, pinpricks of light in the deepening darkness. 1 week, Zara said finally. I'll stay 1 more week, help establish protocols for the transport network, train some pilots, then I'm gone. Elias nodded, knowing better than to push. 1 week. They stood in comfortable silence as night fell completely over Sanctuary. In the distance, the archives glowed with soft internal light, a beacon in the darkness. Above, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, bearing witness to the first fragile moments of a new balance between sound and silence. The species that sits in silence had found its voice at last, and the galaxy would never be the same.